Is that shot even in the movie where Alfred says, like, I hope you're not too late?
No,
like,
it's not.
Yeah, see? There you go.
You said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
What the fuck was that shot?
I think it's supposed to imply that.
And I'm like, where the hell would Superman have been in it? Would he just stop by Alfred's at some point? Based off the way the plot unfolded. I'm like, where's that scene?
There's some courtesies you can skip given your powers. You don't have to check with Alfred before finding Bruce.
Aloha, Reject Nation. Greg Alba here.
And it's John over here.
So I'm assuming that if you're here, you have already seen Justice League. We already have a non-spoiler review up. There's a link in the description box for that. If you hadn't got a chance to catch that, basically in a nutshell, I just acknowledged that I thought this one was cheesy, corny, flawed, but it consistently entertained me. I was always amused. No matter what was going on, I think amused and entertained was the best way I could describe it. Yeah.
I thought it was fine, and I was mildly amused from time to time.
I don't know where to begin, so I might just hop into the first thing that pops in my mind. Flash. Flash was the first thing that pops in my mind.
Boy.
All right.
He's in this.
He was quick to get there.
He was quick on the draw, buddy boy.
Flash, Ezra Miller did such a great job with this role. His comedy in this film. You get to care about him. You care about him because he's likable. And him and Billy Crudup. I like the relationship. I'm pretty much almost caught up to date on every episode of The Flash right now. So I've seen the whole storyline play out with Barry Allen and his dad being in jail for a crime he didn't commit. And it was nice seeing that touch and seeing where Barry Allen's starting point is here. And he is different from Grant Gustin's portrayal of the Flash. They start him off as more of a rebellious young guy.
Yeah, you know? Squatting in a warehouse that inexplicably has power from many machines.
And I thought Ezra Miller was so hilarious. He had the funniest lines. You know, like I knew I was loving him when he greets Wonder Woman. He goes, Hi, Barry, I'm not yet.
Yeah, man. He had some of the best. And that thread with his dad. The emotional plot lines are very thin in this, but he is a character that gets one, and I did like it, you know?
And he has an arc. That's one of the few characters that has like an actual arc in this film.
He's coming out of his shell, man.
He's coming out of his shell. He makes some friends, he bonds, and he gets a job by the end of this movie working at the Central City Police Station. Cyborg, though, Ray Fisher, or Victor, the character, I was genuinely surprised. He's not funny in this film, you know, and I feel like sometimes like the ones we love the most are the funny ones. But he was this character who's I found intriguing because his powers kept growing. His powers kept... It's like once you see Barry's power, okay, you get it. He's fast.
Yeah.
Aquaman can only do so many things. A Cyborg was a character where we're like, oh, cool, he has a new power. He constantly has evolving powers. And I thought him and Flash were the highlights of this film. Cyborg had the only story where I was actually emotionally invested in his journey.
And he really felt like a character. And part of that, too, is because this is his introduction. And that's one of the strange ways where having to introduce characters kind of does work for this movie a little bit. Again, you don't get to know him deeply, but he does have like a really kind of authentic performance.
Yeah.
You know, you can feel the conflict and you can feel that I'm a monster sort of thing, you know, percolating underneath him. And oddly, the most human out of all of them.
They introduce him as a dark character at first. He's a dark character with these powers that he's still learning to understand, and he doesn't view his stuff as powers or as skills. Like, he doesn't want to get involved because he doesn't want to embrace this because he views it as bad. So through the course of the film, he's learning to embrace it and use it and work with it, and he becomes a part of the team. I liked his approach. I liked how he was one of the more serious characters. I thought his character was actually very effective. I heard some complaints about him, and that's one I'm going to really disagree with, that I thought he was very effective. It was Aquaman was the one where I'm like, okay, he's the one character in this film where I thought he needed a solo film, especially with what they're doing with his character, because they do shit with his character, like going to Atlantis, meeting with Johnny Depp's ex-wife, Amber Heard, meeting with Amber Heard. I'm watching it going, see, this is one of those moments that would be cool if you had a solo movie. We're like, okay, you know, Pepper Potts showed up. It's essential to the plot based off what the mother boxes are, that he would have to go to Atlantis. At the same time, though, I know the effect they're trying to go for, but it's just not going to be felt because I don't know who the fuck this person is. I don't know who this person is.
I'm going to see an isolated portion of something I don't really know much about. about, and then I'm gonna have to kind of forget about that in a few minutes, you know? Yeah. And it does make you want to see Aquaman because of that, but it also makes his character feel just kind of like he's there.
You could tell the filmmakers are very much listening to what people are complaining about. Yeah. So there's some stuff that leans way too much to the opposite side of the spectrum. I guess what everyone just wants is a balance, you know?
DC is fishtailing right now, and we're waiting for them to finally find their line, you know?
Because Wonder Woman had a balance. Drama, emotion, humor. It had everything that we wanted was that balance. Yeah. And this got a little too light for an end-of-the-world scenario. It probably would have been easier to just be cool with that if these guys had solo movies. Kind of like the first Avengers. You can't help but compare this to the Avengers. When Steppenwolf shows up, I'm gonna lower you guys. I don't really know Steppenwolf's comic book history. But when he shows up, I'm like, oh, it's Loki. Loki shows up through the... Yeah. And then he has his little weapon, and I'm looking for a box.
No. This time it's $3.
Yeah.
It will eventually become $1. It's the Allspark and the Tesseract.
The thing is, the Avengers is a pretty lighthearted film, and you don't really need to feel that, like, crazy stakes. It's effective because these guys have had solo films before. This, you needed that. You needed even a better Batman solo film, not just the BVS introduction. This is really Aquaman.
I feel like there are things about this that work because of how they've taken BVS and at least run with what it implies. And so there are things that work that come out of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like for Batman's leadership ability, it would have been great to have a solo movie first.
That's one thing the movie doesn't toy with, though, which bothered me.
Yeah.
Is that it's setting that up. He doesn't really know how to work well with people. He is not really comfortable with leading.
And he's late in an arc. Like, he's another version of Bruce.
I wanted to see him, like, make some bad leadership decisions, or if he makes a leadership choice and they don't really like what the leader's doing. He kind of served more of a Nick Fury in the field.
Yeah.
You know?
If Nick Fury came along and punched a few people also.
Yeah, like Nick Fury doesn't really need to be there, but if he was there like shooting a gun, like, okay, cool.
Cool, he's helping out.
Yeah. Right. But he really just needs to bring the mega heroes to save the day.
Yeah. At one point, even Cyborg jumps in his ship and he's like, no, I got this. A couple times that happens, actually.
The way they bring Superman back in this film, using the mother box with the technology they brought Cyborg to life. Yeah. They're applying the same method, like kind of what they did with Zod.
They're going to take him into the ship and they're going to go in the water.
Into the meditation tank.
Yeah.
And then,
sensory deprivation. They're going to trip out a little bit, learn some things about themselves, and then Superman's going to come back.
And then Superman comes back. That was a genuine nice surprise to me.
That was one of my favorite things about this movie.
When Superman comes back, there's a whole... I thought Superman was going to be like, oh, he's 15 minutes before the movie ends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, he's super essential. But when they're all fighting Superman, it gives you like a fun... It's not like actually menacing or dark. You don't actually think Superman's going to do something terrible.
But with the way these films have gone, he comes back clearly not happy about it, and you're like, I don't know which direction this is going to go, actually. There are a couple moments like that do kind of get meta, which makes all the superhero poses and landings so weird, because that's a moment where you're like, I've thought of that before.
You could definitely tell when there's like Joss Whedon jokes in this movie.
Yeah.
Like there's this great bit. It was my favorite scene of Aquaman.
Yeah.
When Aquaman is opening
when he gets to have a character moment.
We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. And he starts giving his opinion on the whole team.
Don't like you.
And himself too.
Don't trust you.
And then you find out he's sitting on the lasso of truth. And we're like, oh, it's totally, Joss Whedon totally wrote that.
Yeah. And that's like such a wonderful moment because it endears you to Aquaman and it brings the team kind of closer together. And it's a sort of meta superhero movie moment. It is a moment where this movie does actually shine, because it does have moments where it does shine. They're just few and far between.
I guess it just felt a little bit like Aquaman wasn't exactly necessary. If you think about it, like really think about it for a second, guys. He shows up to do an Aquaman thing one time, and that's because they happen to be under Gotham Harbor at the time.
Yeah.
And he shows up at just the right time, which is cool.
It feels like he's there to help the plot with stuff. It's like, oh, one of the boxes in Atlantis. That's an excuse to have Aquaman here, and he's going to stop them from being drowned to death.
In terms of his powers, though, he's kind of just serves a purpose to just help with punching.
He's Brick.
He's just... yeah, he's Brick.
The horses and a man on fire, and I killed a guy with a trident.
In the finale of the movie, you're like, he can't do any Aquaman things here. He just stabs and punches. I'm like, that's essentially what Wonder Woman's here for, but she has a lasso, so she's kind of cooler.
And she can jump super high.
And she also has a personal like vendetta with Steppenwolf because she always does with these gods. Evil gods. Yeah. But going back to Superman, Lois Lane. We spend so much time with Lois Lane in Man of Steel, and you get a good amount of time with her in BVS. And surprisingly, I felt like if there's one thing they actually really fixed was Superman and Lois Lane. Yeah. Because I liked Lois Lane in this movie. There's this great thing that they're setting up where Batman says, okay, if we wake Superman up, we need to get the big guns. You are thinking, since Batman's already been using guns to fight these parademons, that it's just gonna be some kind of crazy bat weapon.
Another self-aware movie moment.
But then when Alfred shows up, when Superman's gone crazy, and then he has Lois, you're like, oh, that's the big gun.
Makes sense.
That's cool. And I loved it. I loved it.
His mother's
I
name.
was like, I actually buy this whole Superman Lois thing now.
I liked her okay in Man of Steel, and I did not like her in BVS, and this is the most I've liked that character at all. And that moment she has with Ma Kent too is great.
Yeah, the whole scene when they're talking at the Daily Planet was a great scene. That was the first character scene that I thought I actually was really enjoying.
Yeah, and to see Superman too, like getting along with some of the team and stuff, and like the post-credit
smiling and having a good time. That was one thing in terms of plot and course correction that I thought was well justified, because they actually killed him. He was dead. The way BVS ends just kind of confused the shit out of me, because they showed the like levitating dirt. You're thinking, oh, he's really not dead. Soup's still alive. But then this movie's like, no, he's actually really dead. They have to do this whole crazy process to get Superman back. And Superman has one line in here that made me go, you know what? That just justifies the whole change of Superman's personality, which is, I actually like being alive.
Yeah, you know? Yeah.
And he's back. He's happy to be alive. So it makes sense that he's more smiles. And it was brightened up. And there's even this great mid-credit scene that hints at a great part of comic book history of Flash and Superman about to race each other. I'm like, that's cool. That's really cool. Everything with Superman I really like.
And that's some really fun camaraderie too. Like that scene was one of the most wonderful parts of this movie. I think that was the one part of the whole experience where I was like, yeah, you know, because to see Superman like that in this iteration almost in a weird way makes the arc of getting here a bit better, because you see like, okay, maybe he had to die, come back, rage out for a second, and then realize that he's happy to be there, and now we have a Superman.
Yeah,
you know,
we have the Superman we want. He's got a brighter costume and everything.
He's got an origin story finally after 3 movies.
The big problem with the Clark Kent scenes has nothing to do with Henry Cavill's performance or the writing of Superman. It's the damn behind the scenes reveal of the freaking mustache, because it seemed like you could notice it way better than I could. But every time there was a close-up on his face, I couldn't help but look at his freaking lips to see, like, is it there? Is the mustache thing there?
See, the thing
was this post?
If I hadn't been told, there are definitely scenes where it is very noticeable.
But there's so much bad CGI in this movie that I might not have noticed.
There is a lot of bad CGI, and there are times where I was sitting there going, okay, they hit it pretty well there. So if you're not looking for it, you might not even see it at all. But there are, like, the prologue of the movie, and then some of the later scenes, I'm like, oh, he has weird uncanny valley face, you know, because there's so much other bad CG and like bad green screen work, and like after a while nothing feels real, and so it changes how you think about it, and certain things do sort of slide off you
like
more.
Atlantis, the only thing that got me worried for like future DC stuff, like I'm excited to see Flash. I would love to see Cyborg, a Cyborg movie. I would love to see that. I'm excited for Wonder Woman 2. Give me whatever next Batman adventure you want. But Aquaman, when they go to Atlantis, I thought it looked really bad.
I was not into
So when they were in Atlantis, I was like, ooh, is this where most of Aquaman is taking place? Because this does not look very good. The thing...
And their costumes and underwater floaty stuff.
It doesn't look great. I really feel like with something like the character of Steppenwolf, because he was the most noticeably terrible CGI.
He looked like a video game.
I think that there's a big trick into making CGI work, which is cinematography.
Yeah,
lighting. If you watch the Hulk, Ang Lee's, and then you watch the Incredible Hulk, the biggest difference beyond updated special visual effects over the course of like a couple years is the cinematography. They light them in certain lighting where it's like the same thing with Thor Ragnarok. It's depending depending on certain lighting, is when he looks the most real and when he looks fake. And it's the same thing here, but Steppenwolf was always like some brightly colored scene for some reason that you could always notice how fake he looks.
Fighting on Themyscira, which is an island with no trees. Like, you know.
And it was and he was such an uninteresting villain, and
they just gave him nothing to work with. I feel bad, again, like for that actor, you know, coming off Game of Thrones and stuff. It doesn't have anything that you couldn't, I don't think, put a big, bulky dude into. Like, his armor and stuff. Maybe his face, sure, but the rest of him, you could have replaced him with a big, bulky guy and it would have remained the same, because his voice has changed. He doesn't have any interesting character moments or dialogue, and it is kind of
the same shit every scene.
Apocalypse, and it is that sort of, I need my special object so that I can take my place as ruler of the world and destroy everything.
And the parademons aren't cool. I mean,
it does nothing to make that any more interesting than that.
The midpoint of this movie is when they have the whole, you guys ran away from Flash.
Yeah, they go to see Gordon.
They go to see Gordon.
One main scene.
That's like the midpoint of the movie. That's when like, okay, there's a team actually assembling here. Okay, that's
most of the way. Because then Aquaman still is like on his way.
Oh, yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah. So that's like the midpoint of the movie. The thing though is that the way I could tell this movie wants me to feel is the first like 10 to 15 minutes are supposed to feel like a setup. You're supposed to get into Act 2, and I was like, okay, I get it. The recruiting game. That's the fun in games. But that was kind of already in the setup. The big issue with structure is before they become a team, it feels like we've been watching a 45-minute setup. And the only reason I know it was 45 to 50 minutes is because some asshole turns on their fucking phone and I see 7:02 and the movie started at 6:20, like after the trailers were done. So I was like, oh, we're about 40 minutes in and here's the scene.
Well, yeah, and there are also too, at least from my viewing experience of this, in the first half of the movie especially, it started to feel long because I had seen so many of those moments in trailers and clips. And after a while I was like, oh, there's not much scene around these jokes. It's like most of the scenes are pretty quick, so the stuff you've seen before is mostly the way you've seen it, and after a while I was like, okay, when's the new stuff? When's more?
I really feel like with an extra 20 to 30 minutes, this movie could have been paced better, and we could have had more scenes that feel like scenes. I was constantly amused. It's the freaking Blake Snyder, not Zack. Blake Snyder wrote Save the Cat.
Because I know what some people are going to be like, if you complained that BVS was too long, and it's how you use your time. It's like, this is a clippy 2 hours. Everybody could have used a few moments more to make us care.
It's intermittent with like, oh, it's actually good, and then there's flaws. I'm like, I'm amused by how it looks flawed. The thing that really bothered me, if there's one like legit strong thing that bothered me, was why was the CGI so bad in so many scenes? Because there's some great CGI. When you're in Gotham, that looks great.
Gotham looks really cool.
Gotham looks great. It looked like Tim Burton's Batman. It looked like the Frank Miller Batman. So when they're playing the Batman theme song, you're like, that applies. You know, it looks fantastic. Even in Themyscira, that's distracting. Atlantis is distracting. Steppenwolf, the big final battle. I really wish they handled like the parademons and all that better, because they just open up with Batman finding a parademon. You know,
they're not overly menacing. And they're pretty easy to wipe out. It seems like they're mostly annoying because there are so many of them. One thing I will give that I did like about this movie intrinsically, and for the point of what it is how the team ultimately comes together. Because in the Avengers, if we're, you're gonna look and compare a little bit, and part of it is they assemble the team, get the team kind of ready, and then do the mega battle. But in this one, the team isn't fully there until the finale battle.
When Superman comes in.
And
Superman breath reveal. That was dope.
Yes!
I've been waiting for that in this damn Superman movie, and it was
nice.
And it was perfect because it was more than just, oh, he's using it on a couple parademons. He used it to help Wonder Woman.
Crucial.
He helped with the team
to the villain fight.
And it was a neat introduction with Superman, because you saw why Batman was so hell-bent on getting Superman back. Because when Superman shows up, like, the team has nothing to worry about. Steppenwolf is like nothing to Superman.
Yeah. And so it's like, without him, you're just like, oh, you guys are all pretty strong, but how long can we keep on like this? And then Superman shows up and you're like, ah, cool.
Yeah. There was a great joke too when Flash saves the one family that we keep randomly cutting back to.
Yeah.
And then he looks across and he sees Superman's carrying a building of people. I'll get the one to the right. The Superman was done. This is Superman. This is Superman. This is Superman we've all wanted. If there's one thing you gotta give this movie credit for, all your complaints you've had about Man of Steel and BVS, I'm like, they nailed Superman in this film.
That earned them some serious points with me. I really am happy about that, because
that was the only Superman stuff was the stuff where I was surprised. realized.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that is kind of telling too, because we watched so many trailers and clips and stuff. They made an effort to keep Superman under wraps for this movie. Yeah. Even in the way they were introducing him at cons and stuff. Yeah. And I feel like that paid off for them the most.
They would joke around in panels that, oh, he's dead, he's not in the movie.
Yeah. To not really hint at what's going on and to mislead us. This is one of the few cases where I'm happy to have been misled by a trailer too, because he came in much earlier than I was expecting in a way that I wasn't expecting. So
and they reinvented him for the DC universe in a great way. And I guess the last thing to talk about is the post-credit scene where we see Lex has been broken out by the help of Deathstroke. And now it sounds like they're setting up that anti-Justice League group.
Yes.
Where Lex Luthor's like, we need to have our own league. When I'm like, are you going into your own another league?
Are you
You already got Suicide Squad and Justice League. Are you guys already going for the league thing now?
When he said that, I was like, Suicide Squad?
Because I thought like, oh, Deathstroke shit. Oh, that means we're gonna get that Batman movie we've been talking about. Yeah. I'm glad Joe Manganiello, or whatever the hell his name is.
Manganiello.
I'm glad he's still around, because for a while in like the press, it's been like, he even talks like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't even know if I'm in this anymore. You know?
I'm somebody.
So I'm glad they didn't lose him. I'm glad he's still Deathstroke, and the costume looks cool and everything. The setup didn't quite excite me.
Well, and now I'm sitting here going, so what is Lex gonna be like? Because we've just reinvented a few people.
You didn't even have Lex be, I'm the Riddler. You know?
Yeah, he wasn't zany, but he was still, he had that sort of snappy verboseness.
He still carried himself a little different.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
there was something where you're like, they're doing something different.
He's been through prison.
Yeah. He's a man now. He's not some annoying man-child.
He's not Max Landis any longer.
All right, guys. Well, what were your favorite scenes from the Justice League movie? Yeah. Put your spoiler comments down below. Spoiler alert. For any idiot who comes to a spoiler review and looks at comments. Put it down below.
Put it down. Serves them right for looking
or accidentally clicking because they thought it wasn't a spoiler review,
or coming back to their computer after somebody else has used it and scrolled into the comment section,
or the autoplay of the non-spoiler went on
right to the spoiler review. Wow, what a way to ruin an evening.
You can subscribe to The Real Rejects, click that notification bell, follow us on social media, especially at the Stardust app. Download and follow the app at The Real Rejects, and become a Patreon eject today.
Do it, man.
Great communities on both ends.
Come give us a hug.
Love you guys.